Hey guys, let's begin our new example on another C++ class, and today we are going to talk about how to create the poker card. So what is a poker card? Well, I believe you guys know that poker card is a game in which we have a card that has two values, which is the rank and the suit. So let me show you an example on the internet as to what a poker card is. So here you can see these are the pictures of a poker card, and so let me just show you the example in Wikipedia. So if you look at this example right here, we have 52 cards where each card has two values. One is the what we call the rank, and the other one is called the suite of the card. So there are basically four categories, four types of suite, which is clubs, diamonds, hearts, and spades. And we have 13 suites altogether, from ace all the way to king. So here we're going to write a class that represent a card like this. So what we have here in this Notepad++ is we have an empty class declaration for poker card, which we have not specified anything about the card. And we do have another file called pokercard.cpp, which we will implement the definition of the methods for poker card later on. So let's start with the poker card declaration, and let's talk about what the poker card has. So what the poker card has is it has two attributes. First one is the rank of the card, and the other one is the suite of the card. So the rank, as we know, can be anything from ace to 2 all the way to king, right? And as for the suite, we have heart to club to spade. We have four of the suite available: heart, club, spade, and what is the other one? It's actually the diamonds, right? So if you look at these two attributes, how can we store the attributes? Well, there are many ways we can do this. To make it easy, what we can do is for the rank, we can use a string to represent the rank. So say we have string rank, and that actually will represent the rank. And then for the suite, we can probably choose to use a much more simpler representation, which is a character to represent the suite. So when I use a character, I actually want to use a H for heart, C for club, S for spade, and so on and so forth. I'm going to use the first letter of the name of the suite to represent the suite itself. So as you know already by now that if I do not specify any access specifier for my attributes, they are by default considered as private. So this is technically the same as writing a private and run a private as an access specifier for the attributes. So we make this private because we do not want the user to have direct access to the rank and suite. Now let's see what we can do with the methods of the poker cards. So obviously what we can create is let's write two get methods for suite and rank. So you can write something like this: suite get rank, and this will be the method to get the rank, and it's public. Then we can have a function to get a suite, which we return a suite as a character. So what else can we have? Well, let's create a constructor for it. And suppose, let's say we want to make sure that the only way to create a poker card is to use a constructor that pass in the rank and the suite. So in that case, we will provide a overloader constructor. And what really this means, which you might not know by now, is that if you provide a overloader constructor and you never provide the default constructor, then what compiler will do is that he will not create a default constructor for you, but rather you will only have one constructor, which is the one that you define. So what this means is really that the way we design like this without the default constructor is means that in order to create a poker card, we need to provide the rank and suite. Otherwise, we can't actually have a poker card. So that's actually what we want. So that the constructor name must be the same as the class name. So in this case, I need to make sure that it's called poker card instead of poker. Right, and this should work just fine so far. Now maybe it's good for us to show the card on the screen by using a function. So you can write void show, and when we call this function, then it will show the how the card looks like, right? Screen. So now I think we pretty much have the basics of what a poker card is. Now we will move on to the poker card.cpp file to implement its the methods that we have here. Right, so now we move on to this. So the first thing that we do is let's implement the overloader constructor, which pass in a rank and a suite. So when you define all methods outside of the class, you need to provide the class name followed by what we call as the scope resolution operator. So this is really what we call scope resolution operator. And yeah, this is the one. Right. So by having the class name and the scope resolution operator, that will tell the compiler that this constructor really comes from the class and it's not really just a global function. So what do we do inside the constructor? So what we do is we set the rank to R, and we set the suite to S. All right. Now let's move on to the next method, which is the get rank method. So get rank, and this should return the rank of the poker card. So let me name this correctly. It should be poker card instead of poker. So now this is more correct. Then here we also have to provide the class name followed by the scope resolution operator, and then that is before the function name. In the function body of this get rank method, we are going to return the rank of the poker card, and that's basically all that we need to do. Next, we're going to have a function of char get suite, which returns the suite of the poker card, and this one basically just returns suite. Finally, we have the show function, which is where things is going to be interesting, right? So suppose I want to display the card, right, such that it looks like a card instead of just showing the suite and rank in just two lines of code. Well, I want to show the card the card face values as well as the suite. So well, how do I do that? So let me first tell you what I want to achieve, which is I want to be able to do something like this. So for example, let me come up with some design. So let's say this one is the border of the card. Right, so the border of the card is like this. And I actually want it to look like this. So this is the border. And here we don't have anything. So let me just give you an idea as to what I want it to look like. So suppose let's say this is a ace. This card has a ace for the rank. So what I want to achieve is really just I want to look something like this. And suppose let's say the suite is hard, then I want this to appear like this. So you don't understand what I'm doing right now at this moment, but let me just do a quick one to show you what it is. And that's basically something like this. So I'm just gonna try to put it in like this for the suite, which is to just write some character. So yeah, okay. So I'll explain to you what is char tree very soon. Let me just try to show you how it looks like. Then later we will talk about the details. Right? So now let me try to use this poker card and try to show one card for you. So for that, let's save a file called poker card main.cpp, and we try to use the poker card that we have, which I have to include the poker card in the file like this. So let me just try to create one very simple poker card. So say that I write something like this. Poker card, and I pass in a string A and then followed by say character 3. Okay, so okay, right now because I never really use the variable rank and suite for the show method, as you can see, I just want to show you the design. So what do I put here really doesn't matter right now. So let me just for the sake of illustration, let me just cook up some invalid suite value, and this is a character. So character is for the suite, string is for the rank. So if I do write card.show, and you should be able to see the design, which looks like this. Poker card main.cpp card. Alright, let me fix this error first. So apparently I need to include the IO stream at the beginning. So let's do that. And just in case I forget, because here we do use a string, so here we need a include string at least, so that we can use the string class. Right, so now this should solve the error. Alright, so this is actually what I want to show. So what you can see is there's a heart shape, and there's the design of the card for the card. So and it's showing that the rank is A and the suite is a heart shape. We actually need to write the code to do this. So where does this come from? Well, it comes from, let me show you this how to really do this correctly using the rank and suite. And after that, this is actually a cast. Stop the video, and then we will continue in the next video to talk about character. Right. So this one is going to be. So the reason why this is shown as a heart shape, and well, that is simply because we are using the rank raster font here. So then followed by, you won't be able to see this if you're not using a raster font. So let me show you what I mean. This thing will. So suppose let's say if you open same, you right click the command prompt and you open properties. And you notice here under the fonts tab, there is a panel that shows what fonts you can choose. So most likely the font that you have is either Console Last, Career New, or Lucida console, and so on. So if your font is any of these and they are not the raster font, then you won't get to see the character. You will see something that is non-visible, right? So in order for you to see the heart shape, you will have to change the font to raster font, which is this one, raster fonts. So only with this you'll be able to see the heart shape. I'll talk about more about this heart shape and all other shapes later on. But right now what we want to do is we're going to focus on this display function. So here we are obviously not showing the real suite and rank that we store in the card, because if you go back to the main function, we actually stores a capital A for the rank, and then this one is Q for the suite, and this is obviously not a valid suite. So if you want to show the real suite and rank that we pass in, then we have to change this, right? Change this to the suite of the card. So this one is easy. We can just write suite here, then replace char3. And what needs to be changed is also the default, the fixed rank that we put here. So how do you do this in a more consistent way that works for this and also for that? Well, we can use the IO manipulators to help do this. What we're going to do is we're going to display the rank within this width of 3 letters, and we make sure that this is left justified. So what do I mean by this is let's change this to such that we only have 2 border lines, and next what we do is we set the width to 3, and then we set it to left justify, then followed by the rank, that's rank of the card. Alright, so they are using IO manipulators, and for this to work, we need to include IO manip header file, right, which you have to type this to include it. Now let's continue on to this line. So this one we should display it like this: set width of 3 followed by right followed by rank, and we close the make sure we put the double quotes consistently, and this should help us display what is being set to the rank and suite for the card. So right now, if I were to compile this code again, right, if I were to compile this code again, you'll notice that it shows what is being set in the main function. So I can set this to any card I like. For example, I can set this to 10, for example, and it will show 10 instead, right? So let's have a look. Right, so it will show 10 instead. Okay, so now let's talk about how we can create a list to store a bunch of cards, right? So maybe what we should do here to make this more interesting is that we want to be able to populate. Okay, we want to create a deck of cards, right? We want to create a deck of 52 cards, and we want to be able to create these 52 cards automatically. So how can we do this automatically? So one of the ways that we can use is this, which is first let us create a string, right, that looks like this. We have a list of string, which we define it for the ranks. So let me just call this ranks, and allow me to say that this is a constant string so that we are storing constant string instead. And let's put in all the possible rank values that we know. So this is 2, this is 3, and then we just continue on and just put all the values in. and let's let it run. 7, 8, 9, 10. And after that we have all the other letters such as J, Q, K, and A. Right, so J, Q, K, and A. And that's basically all the ranks that we can have. So now we have a constant char of suites this time, and it will store a bunch of valid suite values. Now thankfully, okay, let's try to do this. Let's see what should be stored here. Okay, so before I show you how I get this, let me just tell you that all the shades for the suite are part of these four ASCII or 4 characters with ASCII values from 3 to 6. Right, so you may not be able to see why this is the case, so allow me to just show it to you with a code that goes like this. So for character that is called C, that is equals to 3, char C is less than equal to 6, plus C, and if I try to see out the value of C, you will notice that in the case of a raster font, you will display them with the shapes of the suites of a photo card. So let me just show you the output first. Convince you that those numbers will give me all the suite characters. So notice here, this is the loop that displays all the shapes of the suite, and it starts from heart, followed by diamond, followed by spade, followed by club, and then followed by spade. Right. So ASCII value 3 to 6, if you display using the raster font, then you will get these shapes that you want. And we can actually use that for our poker card. So how do we do this? Well, now once we have these 2 arrays constructed, now it's going to be easy for us to construct our deck of cards. So now what we can do is this. To create a deck of 52 cards, let me first comment this code. We are going to first comment this code because we can write a loop that will generate the deck. So generate a deck of, let us use a vector to store the deck of cards. So how do we create the vector of cards? Well, what we do is we write vector, and we want to do that automatically. So what we can do is, and then let's call this a deck. We can just write a code like this. So integer I equals to 0. Call this as generate less than a deck of 52 poker cards. So we go through all the suites, right? We go through our ranks. After that, we go through all the suites, and that will generate us the combination of ranks and suites. So the way to create the cards is basically to write a loop, and therefore a nested loop. In fact, that will go through all the ranks for the card. And then after that, we have a followed by the suites, and that will goes through where we have a nested loop, where one of the loop all 4 iterates over the lengths, and the other one all 4 suites. Then we'll get a combination of all 4 possible ranks and suites to give us 52 to generate the card. Basically, so now we need to have an array I equals to 0 or even a vector. So let's say if I want to use array 13, because to use array, what you do is that you write something like this. We write another nested loop for I equals to 0, for j equals 0, sorry. And then you say less than 4 deck, and then you can plus j 52 for all the 52 cards. In order to add a deck of cards, what you do here is say the deck got pushed back at 0, and then we pass in the. So how do I initialize the first deck? Well, what we can do is, which will take in, we can write another variable called k of I, which will create outside, followed by the, and this K will iterate over all decks that we have. So J, so now this one will be a deck of K. Create one poker card based on is combination of ranks and suite card and push it into the deck. And what you do is you just for all the ranks and all the suites, then you should get all the 52 cards. I followed by the suites. So to show that it actually works, alright, what we can do is, so then it should work. We can, and what we do is after we have done by for every deck that we created, what we need to do is we need to increase the K by 1, otherwise we're always just update the same, so same card in the deck. So K must pass operative deck size for I. So to allow the next deck, you just call deck. Right? So that really is all dot on how we can actually will generate a deck of 52 cards, and to see whether it is done show the cards in deck. What we can do is we can go through all so let's see the output. Screen, and then we compile. So this one is 2. Then display the deck. What do I miss? Well, I miss the declare the so what we can do for is vector. We can, so let's do that. Say that I is less than header for vector 2 plus I, and that should be enough. Now let's try again. The screen compile I dot show, and that will show that particular shows on the screen all the cards. And let's start from very beginning. Let's have a look. So here it starts from the output of this program. A card. Right. So what we have done is we have rank 2 create suite is hard, a constant string of ranks, and then a constant char of suites. Suite is club, rank 2 suite is then speed. After that we have, and then once you finish 52 one round of suites, then the next rank will increase. Then we use so we just do a quick scroll down to see generate all the cards possible cards. And finally we just display all the cards in the deck. So that basically is all the cards that you can have, right? Alright, so let's say let's just do one more thing we don't desire has happened. So which is to suppose let's say we have a poker card game, right? Don't actually have we have a poker card game and we want to distribute the cards to the players. So what we can do is initially we need to shuffle the cards in a constant. So shuffle we shouldn't pass a constant. In that case, I will just remove this as just a normal. Once we shuffle the cards string deck, then after that we will just divide them into 4 parts, and then that will be alright. So we are still a bit not will be given to 4 players. Let's see what's wrong. So what we can do is we create. So it states that we were. Oh, alright. So I know what happens. We can. So what happened was that when we create array, this one by default will call the default constructors like this. Right, you will not so initialize the array of the 4 initialize the deck. For example, the constructor that we're going to use. Poker card. So in order for me to quickly sort of solve this, I'm going to change my code so that it's called players using the array. I'm just going to use actually each player has a. So let me just do this very quickly. And this is actually our deck. So now what we do is we first of all we shuffle use pushback instead of. And to shuffle a deck, there's an easy way, which is the shuffle function from the algorithm of the let's just now for it. This thing will be just nice 54, 52. So let's call it see the plus plus so now we can see the result. Right? Random shuffle. Right, so there's a function called random shuffle, which will just do the job for us. And the way to call it is by passing in some iterators. So you can see examples like this. Right, just pass in the vectors begin and end, and you can shuffle the vector. So we're going to use this method, and that comes from the algorithm header. So now let's do it. So then we say that include algorithm, and this is for the random shuffle function. So then we can actually shuffle the deck by doing something like this. We say random shuffle, and then we pass in the deck dot begin, deck dot end, and then we'll actually shuffle the cards in place. Once we have shuffled the card, then what we can do is we can pass the cards to the players. So how do you pass the cards to the players? Suppose we want to emulate the case where there is a referee that's sort of distributing the cards for each player one by one. So let's say what we can do is we can have a variable k that will iterate over the players. Sorry, this k will iterate over the cards. This one will index for deck, and then we have a loop that goes through all the players. I less than 4, we have 4 players, right? So we can just do something like this. And so what we do really is that we will push for players I, we will push a card from the deck that is referenced or indexed by k, and this k is going to increase every time that card is passed to a player. So this one will be done in such a way that the k actually stops. So what really happened here is that we are going to increase the k, and what happened here is that if you realize that all the cards has been distributed, then we're going to stop. So the condition to stop this is going to be like this. Actually, we need a nested loop for this, really. So I need to write something like this. So I need to write a for that will continue running, and that is like this. Actually, it's more like the while loop. So the while loop is going to go like this while the k is less than 52, because we have 52 cards, and we should say deck.size to be more exact. So while the k is still valid, that means I can still have cards to distribute. Then I want to distribute to the 4 players. And this k will increase the moment once we have passed a card to a player. So once we have this, then we can display the cards per player. So we're going to write a loop that goes through all the player and then display the cards. So it goes like this for I equals to 0, I less than 4, I. This one will go through all the players. And what you do is that you go through each player's deck of cards. So this one is player size, then we just see out by writing something like this. So we can say players I.show, and here to show which player we are looking at, so we can say cout player I plus 1, and we put a bracket surrounding this, and then should show us all the cards that the player have. So let's compile this program. Okay, so players, well, actually I missed something, because here what happened is that player I just give us a vector, and we need to access the card itself. So we actually need to call J to access the poker card, because player I only gives us a vector of the player's deck of cards, and by accessing the J, then we get the card itself. So this is more appropriate. Now it should work just fine. Okay, so we can see, let's go to the top. So so this one was the beginning where we sort of like set the card, and let's say we try to disable the code for this, we try not to show the deck. So let's say this, we put this, and now we should be able to see just the player's cards, and then we just do it again. Now we can see that, let's start from the beginning. Player 1 has a random set of cards, right? Then the player 2 has a random set of cards, and same goes to player 3, and the same goes to player 4. Okay, so I'll send this code to the Google Drive for you to try. But that's basically all the discussion we have about classes as an introductory lecture. So you're going to learn this more in your next program subject called Object-Oriented Programming and Data Structure. For now, this should be a good enough example to show you the usefulness of a class and how you can use vectors to store objects of a class and how can you make use of them. For example, in this case, is representing a poker card game where we distribute the cards to each players. So I guess that's all for the lecture, and thank you very much for watching the videos. Hopefully you learn something from these videos. Thank you very much. Bye.